Hello, this is Melvin Ramon. Let's talk about music. So first of all, I gotta say thank you to Tales from the Crate. I got a big shout out, which I really appreciated. My wife just loved it. Thank you very much. Love your channel, man. Really like what you do. Like a lot of the records you show. You've turned me on to some great stuff. Hopefully, I can return the favor some. Thank you. Some records I got going right now. Recent pickups. Starting out with Neil Young, Tuscaloosa. It is a live album with the Stray Gators from 1973. I was born in 1973, so I happen to be especially fond of stuff from 1973. This is a sort of a second version of the stuff he did on the album Time Fades Away. It's from the same tour, but with a slightly different lineup. That he changed drummers mid tour. And this it's similar material. It does contain actually some more stuff from Harvest, which is what he was touring on at the time, and it does kind of have a whole different vibe. Time Fades Away has a really tense, confrontational kind of hard rockin' vibe. This is a little more laid back, and there seems to be a better mood about it going on. So similar material, but a whole different vibe. It's from Neil Young. You know what he does. Speaking of Neil Young, this is a band I once saw open for Neil Young. This is Sonic Youth. This is Battery Park, New York City, July 4th, 2008. This was a bonus record that came with the initial orders of their last album, The Eternal. Recently, they have done a repress, a new version of it, so I pulled that one out. It's a really cool live album. It's got some stuff from a lot of stuff that they hadn't played in a while from earlier in their career. With the final lineup, the band sort of near the end of their run. Just a really good live album from a band that has done tons and tons of stuff. Sonic Youth are one of my very favorite bands, so it's great to see some of their stuff out there, even if they're no longer going to be active. Speaking of my favorite bands, this is another of them, Shellac. This is The End of Radio. It is a album. They're describing it as two Peel sessions, although one of them is from actually just after John Peel died. But they are BBC live recordings. You get some very different versions. Excuse me. You get some very different versions of all of these, by the way, are in black vinyl so far. You get some very different versions of some of their material, recorded live. If you're not familiar with them, they are the recording project of Steve Albini and Bob Weston, both of whom are known as producers. Steve Albini famously for Nirvana's In Utero album, but tons of other hard rock, punk, and metal stuff, like High on Fire, Neurosis, the Jesus Lizard, especially is a band that he's pretty well associated with. Very notable producer, very notable music personality. Shellac has a very tense sound with Steve Albini's guitar work is very angular and very piercingly noisy. The rhythm section is very precise. Just one of my favorite bands. They only have 5 studio albums, and every one of them's a gem. So if you haven't heard them, check them out. This is a band called Siege Column. Inferno Death Passion is the record. This is, I think it would be described as kind of an odd death metal album. I'm not really sure what subgenre, if you might call it grind or something. It's hard for me to differentiate and put those into categories. I was out at the Full of Hell Primitive Man show, and my friend Sean, who plays in the band Childbite, was wearing their shirt, and there was one of the band's merch tables had some used records in it, and I was flipping through, came across that one. I figured if Sean was wearing their shirt, the band had to be great, and they are. It's a really fun, just scream festive record with some unusual twists and turns. Really good, dirty production. Really happy with that one. Speaking of metal stuff, this is the new self-titled album. It is their second self-titled album by Saint Vitus. It has the return of their original vocalist, Scott Reeder, on vocals. This is one of the classic doom bands, probably the most well-known American doom band, or most classic. I mean, Yob are out there, Sleep, so on, but St. Vitus certainly made their mark. They were originally on SST Records, and there is kind of a hardcore sounding song at the, 80s hardcore sounding song at the end of the record. Slow, fuzzy, heavy guitars, a lot of early Black Sabbath worship. This is a fine, very fine return to form album, up there with any of their albums. That pressing's on black vinyl. There's 5 or 6 different colors out there if you want to look for it. But if you're interested in doom at all, you really doom metal at all, you really should check out Saint Vitus. They are one of the classic acts, and that would not be the worst record to try them out with. This is a recent used find. It is second annual report of Throbbing Gristle. This is a black vinyl pressing. I believe I looked this up, and it was a fairly recent pressing. It is in pretty good shape. This is early industrial music, very noisy. Not almost sounds like a soundtrack or like a noise collage. A lot of harsh noise. Very influential act. I found that I was reading a horror comic along with that, and I found the vibe to really work. It's kind of intense, scary music. Really enjoyed it. Great stuff. Throbbing Gristle are, again, a very classic and seminal act. If you're interested in industrial music or noisy type stuff, you should definitely kind of explore that and see what's going on with that. That would be my suggestion. This is the new album. It's called Act Surprised by Sebadoh. Sebadoh is the other band of Dinosaur Jr. bassist Lou Barlow. Sebadoh, in their original run, I was really fond of their the first 2 records they recorded for Sub Pop in the mid-90s. One was called Smash Your Head on the Punk Rock, which is actually a collection of stuff that's on other EPs, and then their album Bubble and Scrape, which was their 4th album. It's singer-songwriter and folky, but definitely through a noisy indie rock lens. It's associated with Dinosaur Jr., so you kind of, if you're familiar with that, you should get the range. Dinosaur Jr., when I was in high school and kind of moving beyond just being a teenage metalhead, they were the dudes. They were the hip, cool band. They were sort of the iconic slackers or Gen X guys. So I do keep track of their career. I still love all the Dinosaur Jr. records, and I think this is a really good Sebadoh record. Just kind of, I put it on, hey, where are they up to? And it sounded really good. It's kind of heavier than I remember them being, but in a good way. Just a really good indie rock record from a band that's been around a while. This is another recent find. This is Ornette Coleman, Body Meta. This is an album from the mid-'70s. I've been looking for a copy of this for a while. It's kind of a beat-up old copy. It doesn't have the booklet which originally came with it, but I haven't seen one of these, and I've been looking for a while, so I figured this is at least it's also got a punch-out. But I figured this would be a good hold me over until I come across a better copy situation. It is from Ornette Coleman when he was working on the Harmolodic stuff in the mid-'80s. It comes after Dancing in Your Head. Dancing in Your Head is one of my favorite of his albums. This is similar, not quite, it didn't fire me up quite as much, but maybe it'll grow on me. Kind of some hypnotic grooves with Ornette doing his things on top of it. I'm pretty fond of it. But But that's well, that's it for today. Again, thanks to everybody who's been watching. Thanks to all the people who've been subscribing and giving me positive reactions. I appreciate a lot of in commenting. Really been enjoying this and enjoying the reaction. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.